Today's Friday. It is Tezayin Eir, Tovshin Ayin Gimel. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim Tovshin Yud Aleph, Tovshin Yud Beis. In the Maimer of Yud Beis Tamas Tovshin Yud Aleph. Nosato Lireiecho Nosato. And we are on page... where are we?
Hatam Hadavar.
What page?
Kuf Yud Gimel, and you're about 10 lines down on the left-hand side.
Yeah. On page Kuf Yud Gimel. In middle of chapter 3, Ois Gimel. Middle of Ois Gimel.
Yeah.
We're learning about the difference between Avodas HaNisyonos, the serving Hashem through challenges and tests, as opposed to serving Hashem through Avodas HaBirurim, the idea of refining Gashmias as opposed to dealing with tests and challenges of Gashmias. And the Rebbe explained that the difference is in three aspects. Each one of them is made up of three components, and in each one of these three there's a difference between Avodas HaNisyonos and Avodas HaBirurim. The three components are the
person who's doing it.
he starts off like this: says first there is the thing with which we work, with which we have to engage, or that presents itself to us. Then there is the person who has to get the job done, and then there's the method. And in each of these three there's a difference. He first begins to describe the method that in Avodas HaBirurim, in the process of refining Gashmias, we work with that which we are mevarer, which we refine. Whereas with Avodas HaNisyonos, tests and challenges, we don't work with it. We just stand steadfastly and get on with things, and don't deal with the test or challenge altogether. Yes, this is the method. Why is that? Why is the method so fundamentally different? Or to use the other some other descriptions that the Rebbe mentioned. In Avodas HaBirurim, we work with the object of the birur, the object that's being refined, or the situation that's being refined. Whereas Avodas HaNisyonos, we work with ourselves. We discover the strength within ourselves to stand up to that test, that challenge, and to move on. And that causes the challenge, that which presents the challenge, to go away. The reason for that is because there's a fundamental difference between the divine energy that gives life, that sustains the thing, the situation that presents the birur, what we need to refine, and the situation or the thing that presents the test and the challenge. Everything that exists needs to have a divine energy. It can't exist without divine energy. But the object or the situation of birur, of refine, that presents the need, that which we are going to refine, the nitzis of the key, the godly energy that's in there, is more pronounced. Whereas when we talk about a situation of nisyonos, tests and challenges, the nitzis of the key, the divine energy, is completely subsumed by the object or the situation that presents the test or the challenge, to the extent that it becomes dark itself, as it were. Chaticha atzma na'asis nevela, it takes on the characteristics of that which it gives life to. And all that's left is just the fact that it exists. Its very essence, that's all that's left. Therefore, the way to deal with that is by awakening the very essence of the individual, just to stand up against it. And then the Rebbe began to go into a...
Stand up against the part that's, you said that the godly energy is concealed. So why does the person have to, you standing up against what? Against the
challenge.
Darkness.
Sorry?
The darkness around the...
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
What happens if it's a test that is not a difficult challenge to do, like a test like watching television, for example, which is not a test that you find a huge thing to do, but really deep down it is a test in a different way. It's a different type of test.
How do you deal with that?
I'm saying the
Let's put it this way. Let me try to articulate this in terminology of Chassidus, which will give us language, and then we'll be able to see how you deal with, in which category different things fall in. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. Right? These are the 5 names of the Neshama. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. The Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama refer to the lower aspects of the Neshama. Maisa is Nefesh, action. Ruach is the emotions, Neshama is the intellect. Generally speaking, the way you deal with challenges that are in Nefesh, Ruach, or Neshama is by birur. You get involved because it's a koyach pnimi. It's an inner. These are inner faculties. So the way you deal with them is by the converse, if you will, the opposite of those in kedusha.
Like you said, eating and doubling and things
Yeah,
like that.
that's what the Rebbe goes into. Chaya and Yechida. That's what the Rebbe is actually fleshing out over here. When you talk about makifim, things that are outside of the person's pnimi, it's more hovering and surrounding. You deal with them a different way. How does the rotzen, chaya is rotzen, yechida is tainug, okay? For the purposes of this maimer. In other mamorim, yechida, we're talking about the very essence of the soul. But here we're talking about rotzen and tainug, desire and pleasure. So you have desire and pleasure of kedusha, chaya yechida of kedusha, and you have desire and pleasure of le'umazah, of the nefesh habamis, right? Of the animal soul. How do you deal, how does rotzen of the nefesh halakis overpower? How does the rotzen? So what does it mean? The nefesh halakis has rotzen in godliness. It wants godliness. The nefesh habamis, the animal soul, wants gashmias and chumrius, materialism, right? How does rotzen of the nefesh halakis deal with the rotzen of the nefesh habamis? By overpowering it. It doesn't go into any negotiations. In nefesh ruach neshama, you work with the nefesh habamis. That's birur. That's the process of refinement. Ratzon, the way Ratzon works inherently is by overpowering. You impose a will. If you explain that you shouldn't be doing it, that's not Ratzon. Then you've explained to the Nefesh Habamis that you shouldn't behave in this way, and the Nefesh Habamis decides not to, on the basis of the explanation, then it understands that it shouldn't do it.
And how do you activate?
Hang on, 1 second. Let's just go through it. So Ratzon overpowers. What's tainug? When you say the nefesh halakis has tainug in godliness, when the nefesh halakis has pleasure in godliness, there is no room for any other pleasure.
The rotzen is gevura, really.
So the rotzen overpowers, and tainug is a kayach, is a faculty which causes. So one overpowers and one causes bittul, nullification. Okay, so my point is, of course, there are tests which will have to do with your maisa, or your emotions, or your intellect. So they're tests in the sense that they present a challenge for you, but they might still be in the bracket of Avedis HaBirurim. If I have a taiva to eat, let's talk about the basic framework that Chassidus talks about in terms of birur, refinement. Is kafya, right? What is this kafya? I have a taiva to eat. You don't eat for the taiva, eat l'shem shamayim. How do you do that? Through his bonus, right? You contemplate and you think that I was created to serve Hashem, and so on and so forth, etc., etc. So you're able to what? You have the tools that will allow you to be disciplined and not eat for the taiva, but sometimes, and to eat to eat l'shem shamayim, right? Is that for that you need rotzen and tainug? Not necessarily. You could use seichel, right? So it's a nisayin in that it's not nisayin in the definition that we're talking about over here, where it's a test that we have to stand up against. So in other words, we're using Avedis HaBirurim and Avedis HaNisyonis very specifically, but you do in the sense that you're talking, that you're mentioning. Avedis HaBirurim is also a test. It tests the person, but it's not Avedis HaNisyonis. It's Avedis HaBirurim. That's my point. Let's see how the Rebbe articulates it, because the Rebbe goes into quite a lengthy discussion here to define birur and nisayon. In fact, also the point that we mentioned earlier, where when a person has a situation where it won't go away, or it won't be undone. For instance, if a person suffers a loss or a tragedy, that's also nisayon. So let's see how the Rebbe articulates it. So the Rebbe...
At the end of the day, isn't it all ratzon at any level? At the end of the day, whether you're using your low levels or your high levels, it has to come down to
let's put it this way. At the end of the day, it all stems from ratzon. But the question is does it go from ratzon directly to your behavior, or does the Ratzon go through them, Seichel, and go through the Midas? Right? That's the point. When you say, this is Mamalakal, let's talk about more in the macrocosm, the Malakal, the Sevikal, when you took all these levels, everything goes back to the source, all Hashem. So what do you mean, Mamalakal, Sevikal, Esesfiris, Keser, Pnimis Keser, Chesenis Keser? What's this all about? The question is, how many stops, in how many stations does the train stop along the way? Is it directly from the source to the destination, or there are stops along the way? So that's the idea when we talk about these.
How do you activate your will if it's beyond seichel?
That's a keich that the nefesh has. It's a keich that the neshama has the ability to tap into those faculties. It does not necessarily have to be through seichel. Let's try to cover some ground. So Meli says, what's an Avedis Abirudim started at Is Gimel? That when we engage Avedis Abirudim, serving Hashem through refinement, we first need to set the stage by causing a general weakening in the body and in the animal soul, to soften it up. That happens during davening. That's why davening is called Sha'as Krova, a time for battle. What do you battle? What kind of battle is there? You're davening to Hashem, you're having His bodiness, you're contemplating godliness. The battle is the softening up of the animal soul and the body in its determination and its drive towards materialism and gashmias, right? Physicality. And that softening up allows the person later on, after davening, to engage with gashmias, with physical matter, and with materialism, and with the world, with one's environment, and not only not to get caught up by that and be dragged down, but to have an influence on it and lift it up. That is the second part of the battle. In the Zohar you find two expressions. Sha'as Tzloisa, Sha'as Krava, the time of davening is the time of battle, which is, as we just described, what the battle is. Then there's another battle, which is bread is eaten by the edge of the sword. What does that mean by the edge of the sword? Again, this idea of fighting. The battle of refining Gashmis, eating the Shem Shemayim, doing things for the purpose for which they were created and for which they were intended. That's where we're up to. Vihine. We'll start 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from the top on page Kuf Yud Gimel. At the end of the line, the word Virak. Virak la'achrei avedus hatfilah. Only after the serving of Hashem through davening, when we have this general softening up, Bo Seder Aveda, the Pasachris comes, the order of serving Hashem through eating breakfast, and all other matters that are connected to serving Hashem through refinement. This was an explanation why the halach is that a person is not allowed to eat before davening, or a person is not allowed to engage in his physical or material needs that are unnecessary and irrelevant to davening before davening. Why? Because of the explanation we just gave. Because before there's a general softening up, there's the worry, the concern that a person might get dragged down and caught up in the gashmias as opposed to lifting it. And only after davening, when there's a general softening up, one can engage. After a person has affected a general weakening in the body and in the animal soul, which is the beginning of the battle, you can go and continue in the second battle to eat bread by the edge of the sword, which means generally this is a general term for engaging and occupying oneself with the refinement of physical matters. How does one begin the serving Hashem through refinement, which is when we daven, as mentioned before, what's the method that one employs? It's through a process of contemplation.
Where are you reading?
Hine, about 8 lines down. Hine in the middle.
Oh, you went back up, okay.
Chulu. And now I'm up to V'tama Dabar. Why do we daven? Why is the first stage of the battle through his bodiness through contemplation? V'tama Dabar, the reason is the reason is because the sparks, the divine energy, which are extant within those things that are to be refined, they are present there in such a way that besides they're just the bare minimum of existence. Besides that, they also have retained all their other aspects. The fact that they are something of light, that they are light as opposed to darkness, and holiness, They've retained those characteristics as well. Therefore, you have an entry point. You have someplace where to grab hold. You are able to engage with them in battle in a method of shakla v'tarya, engagement, actually engaging with them. Taino maina, discussing. To reach the point where you can actually cause a refinement and elevation in them. Why? Because there are those elements that they have retained. It's not so when we talk about serving Hashem through tests and challenges. Kivon, as mentioned before, since the spark of holiness, that's in this test and this challenge, it's present there in such a way that the peace itself has become nevela. It has been so subsumed that it's taken on the characteristics of what it inhabits, which means the spark itself has become dark. Almost like the darkness of the Shalosh Klippos Atmeis, total Klippa. So therefore, since it's so dark, so there are no entry points. There's nothing where you can grab a hold of in order to start engaging with it. Therefore, it's impossible to go with a method of battle and engagement. Why? Because you have no hold at all through which to begin the battle. There's nothing to grab hold of in the klippa, in the nisayon, in the test. So how do you deal with it? The method of serving Hashem here is, how do you deal with this test, this challenge? It's through awakening the essential determination, the essential strength that the neshama has, and the essential bittul nullification that the neshama has, which are two sides of the coin. In order to have the essential determination, the person has to reach a level of bittul to the extent that all that's present is the etzem neshama, the essence of the soul. Right? To activate, as Harris said, to activate this etzem neshama, these essential abilities that the soul possesses, it is by removing all else and linking into the very essence of the soul. Through how? Through bittul atzmi, through essential bittul, which awakens teikef atzmi, essential determination. What does that mean in practical terms? The person reaches a essential determination that the person realizes that it's impossible otherwise. The person is forced to withstand this challenge in the test. He's got his back against the wall. There is no other way. There's no exit. I can't run away. I can't go through here. I can't convince my captor. I can't convince the challenge or the test to go away or to change. So the only thing I can do is to stand up against it. And since the method of engagement here, or rather there's no engagement, the method of serving Hashem is through this essential determination and this essential bittul nullification. Hainu, meaning to say, the Rebbe spells it out. It means to say that you engage not as a result of the secondary matters and the revelation aspects of the soul, of which in other words is aved al pitamadas. It's not serving Hashem and engaging through reason, through logic, but rather you're serving over here Hashem. You're dealing with it. You've activated what? Your very essence, which is beyond logic, beyond all revelations, beyond all secondary aspects of the soul, but you're actually tapping into the very essence of the soul. From the perspective of the very essence of the neshama, the person has the ability to extract that spark which is clothed in the thing which presents the test. Why? Because even in this spark of energy that gives life to the challenge, which, as we said, has taken on the characteristics of the challenge itself to the extent that it has become dark, it hasn't disappeared. It remains. It remains at only in its very essence. It has lost its manifestations, as it were. But the essence always remains. So by the person activating his essence to stand up against the challenge and the test, that connects with the essence of the divine energy that is present within the test and the challenge, and that way he lifts it. That's what the Rebbe says. Another couple of lines. Ois Dalet, chapter 4.
How do you connect with your essence practically?
There are circumstances that cause the essence to be activated. A simple.
He's talking about you being active,
Correct.
interacting with it, as opposed to the circumstances forcing it upon you.
No, it's only in those circumstances. It's always there, but it's circumstances that will cause it to be activated, and that will happen. Of course, you have to activate it, but you can activate it within yourself only when you're presented in a situation where those essential abilities are necessary. For example, Mesiras Nefesh, Kiddush Hashem, or for God forbid, a person is faced with danger. Take a simple situation. Simply, a person is faced with danger, and the person all of a sudden can do acts that will surprise the person. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? We've all had some experiences to a greater or lesser degree where we have said, "Hey, where did that come from?" So it's a situation that presents itself, which triggers something inside of us, which causes us to react. So of course we react, but you need a specific set of circumstances in order for that to be activated. So in other words, so which level of the neshama we're talking about? Says the Rebbe, "V'zeu gam ma she'avedus hanisyonos kshura im b'chinas hayichidah shebenefesh." Serving Hashem through tests and challenges is connected with the level of the yichidah shebenefesh. Yichidah. Why? Because yichidah shebekoich lahaper b'chinas hayichidah l'umazah. Yichidah of the nefesh of the kis, of the godly soul, has the ability to transform yichidah of the animal soul, of the opposite of kedusha. B'chinas hayichidah, the nefesh habamis, which is what? The level of the yichidah of the animal soul. So over here we're talking about the yichidah of the godly soul transforming the yichidah of the animal soul. And the Rebbe goes on and says even a higher level, sometimes it's explained, sometimes it says in Chassidus that when the level of yichidah, the very essence of the godly soul, shines and is revealed, then the bittul, the nullification of the yichidah of the animal soul, is not that he is mevatel. He nullifies the yichid of the animal soul, but even more than that. There is no test at all. The test doesn't exist to begin with. But you see that there is l'chura. There's still. Why is there a test? In the nesoyim is bata bekach. The test expresses itself in such a way it's only there for it expresses itself for the sole purpose of that the person should be awakened and should reach the level of serving Hashem as it manifests itself, as it results from the activation of Yechidah Shebenefesh, the revelation of Yechidah Shebenefesh. But once the revelation of the person's, the very essence of the Nefesh, the godly soul, is revealed, is activated, then the serving of Hashem is not in the way of a test at all, but rather what? That the test doesn't exist to begin with. And over here the Rebbe is going to go in to a long, beautiful explanation on this concept, which we will, Mitzvah Hashem, learn after Shabbos on Sunday.